What is up, folks? We are here with our very first episode of Actually Real Estate, the podcast, giving you nothing but fire, unbranded content this and every Tuesday at 1 p.m. And with me today and forever now moving forward is my co-host, Andy Schock. How are we doing today?
Dan, what is going on, my man?
I'm telling you, I don't know what happened with my lighting right real quick. It got real dark and I don't know why, so I apologize for that. How's your week, man?
It's been good. It's been crazy. Just to give you an idea, I mean, what a crazy week it's been in the world, right? I mean, the immortal Hulk Hogan passed away last week.
Yeah. Dude.
I don't care what if you're a 70 or an 80 baby, like you had to have some sort of level of respect for that man. Just multi-generational talent, you know. Ozzy Osbourne, you know, that's more the 50s, 60s, 70s. And then I always forget the gentleman's name, but who was the other actor that passed away last week?
Yeah, you know, somebody mentioned that. I forget, and that's what we were talking about with my buddies because we were talking about how everything comes in threes. I was just like, oh Lord, here it is. So
yeah.
Week, man,
and then I just saw this morning a gal that was on was it daytime or nighttime news passed away. One of the legends. I haven't confirmed that, so please, we're live here today. I don't know if that took place or not. I thought I saw something on social media that one of the legend newscasters passed away. So it's been wild, man. And, you know, we've gone through our own little iterations of kind of chaos a little bit in our home lives and our personal lives. So
yeah, we were just talking.
I'm really glad we got this off the ground.
Yeah. You know, it's so funny. I'm actually nervous for the first time in a while. And, you know, we've been doing this for a long time and we've spoken on stages in front of a lot of people. I'm excited to be a little bit nervous with this one, but I'm excited about it. So let's dive right into it, man. You know, folks, when you come and join us every Tuesday at 1 p.m., all we're doing is talking real estate, whether it's for clients, agents, brokers, coaches, mentors, whoever. And the reality is what we're doing is we're giving you unbranded, unfiltered content based on our experiences and life experiences, which combined between the two of us, correct me if I'm wrong, I think we're at like 40, 45 years between the two of us.
Yeah.
That's wild. That really dates us, right? I feel so much older than I actually am.
Almost three generations. What is her 3 decades of real estate? Not 3 generations. 2 generations, but three decades of real estate almost. It's wild, and you served it at the highest level in many aspects. So I'm thrilled to bring content and deliverables and measurables, and some accountability to the industry as a whole. So I'm really excited where we're going with this path. I'm glad to be doing it next to you. I think we're going to have a lot of great inspiration, motivation, education, and some celebrity guest interviews as well along the way. That's really going to bring a lot of great content to this podcast. And I really love the name. Like we pondered the name of this podcast. And, you know, like how simple is actually real estate, right?
The name was right there. I mean, we were banging our heads against the wall trying to come up with a good concept, good idea, good brand, good name. And I was like, wait a second, it's just actually real estate. That's all we're talking about. So let's dive right into it. You know, with your experience in the real estate, you know, industry across your lifetime, you know, what are you seeing as the biggest adjustments in the industry today across the board?
I think the biggest adjustments is distractions. There's so many distractions. There's so many shiny objects. There's so many different things that people can be doing. Next thing you know, you got a telemarketer. I call it telemarketing. A quick salesperson calling you to sell you the next big product that's going to, you know, make your business money or something of that nature. And you get really lost in the simplicity of doing the things consistently, executing them, compounding them daily, right? I say that all the time, but that's a lot of what I'm seeing from just the people in the market, right? People in the industry struggling with, because they're always chasing that. We always say chasing that shiny object, and the simplicity of it is work works, and the boring is successful.
For me, it's like they need to get back to focusing on like the dollar producing activities, right? I'm seeing too many agents and brokers looking busy instead of being busy, right? And, you know, networking events are all cool and they're all fun and dandy. But the reality is, I think a lot of people got out of the routine. And I think COVID has a lot to blame for it because a lot of people got spoiled. And I think the biggest key point I can make is that people need to get back on a regular routine. Like they need to treat it like a day in and day out job with like an itemized itinerary for their entire week. That will help get everybody back into like the dollar producing rhythm. And I think that's the thing that agents are missing nowadays, in my opinion.
Well, there's something that I coached on for many years. It's busy versus productive, right? Are you being busy? Or are you being productive? Are you doing the money making activities? Are you just looking and appearing busy? If you're appearing busy, you're not actually genuinely productive, or you're not getting to the end result of what your measurable is. And we talk about KPIs all the time, right? But if you don't have KPIs, you're not striving to get to an end result of success in your own mind. And that's relative. It can be 5 homes in next month. It can be 12 homes this year. It can be, selling my first home, right? It's relative, but if you don't have something that you're striving for, you get caught in that being busy versus being productive, right?
And that's where I focus on the 10-15 by 10-15 rule, right? I'm reaching out to 10 to 15 friends, clients, whoever that's specifically focused on creating or growing that relationship. 10 to 15 of them by 10-15 in the morning. And then I add more into it between 4 and 6 p.m. So that way I'm catching people either before they're going to work or on their way home. And it's very specific because it seems so simple, but like 90% of our business is conversations and relationships. And people tend to forget that. And it's almost like they focus on the next transaction versus like continually building those relationships and building a community and a family is what I call it. A lot of other people call it like a network or whatever they want to call it. For me, it's a family, and that's my clients know that for a fact, and that's how I treat it. But to get agents and brokers more focused, I would suggest that 10-15 by 10-15 rule, in my opinion.
Yeah. Well, I go by the 5 by 5, right? What are the 5 things you're doing personally? What are the 5 things you're doing professionally, right? If you just keep it that simple, 5 things and execute them daily, let's focus on the money-making activities because that's what we're here to talk about today. But, if you're doing 5 things in your business consistently over periods of time, and time is relative, but I'm just telling you, the metric is thoughts to activities, activities to habits to lifestyles, right? And that's, goes from 1 to 120 days, basically 121 days. So if you're not doing them residually over and over, consistently executing them 5 for that period of time, you're not really adopting your body subconsciously is rejecting it. Even if you don't feel like you're rejecting it, your body is rejecting it. You're getting distracted because you're not doing the consistent execution compounded daily over that period of time. And so you're not going to get to that end result and not create that lifestyle that you need and that embody. Now, as you get comfortable with doing the 5, make it 7 to 10, 7 to 11, whatever the metric is. But you got to get consistent in doing just 5. Start with 5. Keep it simple, keep it basic. And if you're not doing 5 money-making activities every single day, you need to start as soon as you possibly can.
It's funny you say that because what we're doing is creating a routine rhythm so that you're not confused on a day in and day out basis. Because what's the saying? A confused mind makes no decisions, right? And that's we even train our agents to limit things for our clients, right? To not overwhelm them. I remember one of the first times when I first started in real estate, an agent that we were going through boot camp asked me, he's like, "Hey, how many listings do you send your clients?" I was like, "Well, I go through the criteria. I really narrow it down. So, it's like 7 to 8 just because I'm like real hyper specific. Why? How many do you send?" And he goes, "Oh, I send 100." And I thought to myself, why would anybody want to hire that agent when they can just go to Zillow and look at 100 listings, right? Our job is to be specific to get them what they want and what they need at the best price with the best protection, right? So,
you're doing just in that, I'll just make this comment because it just is glaring. You're not doing your customer, which is your client, a satisfaction, right? You're not doing active listening. You're not participating in what the buyer actually desires, what's their wants, what's their needs, what's their non-negotiables. Like that's part of a professional job is to do that so that you can narrow it down. I've always said if a customer, a consumer, a regular, ordinary, prudent consumer was looking at more than 3 or 4 properties at a time, you've lost them.
Mm-hmm.
So now you're going to look at 8. Now you're going to look at 12. Next thing you know, you're going to look at 24 properties. And you're still not going to have a solution or a resolution to that client because they're completely lost because they don't remember 4, 5, and 6, or 1, 2, and 3, or in some cases 8, 9, and 10. How can you possibly, because they're so distracted, right? They can't make a decision. You just mentioned that. And you got to look at that as kind of reverse engineering on how you serve your clients.
And that actually lines up with our next question, right? I know you're reading our agenda in the background, so how ironic that what is your biggest suggestion for indecisive buyers right now with this market here in Florida?
It's really just, you got to get them back to a level of equilibrium and back to the basics. Like what is the purpose that we are sitting here today to look at a house for you tomorrow and start with the basic conversation to get a non-negotiable, what is a absolute need and what is a possible want, and then what is your time frame?
For me, what I focus on too is, I got this from John Marone, is everybody's got their why, right? I mean, some people want to invest, some people want to relocate, and I'll never forget when we did that Sync seminar training with John Marone. He actually used one of the agents live because the agent actually wanted to move, and he found out that the motive for him wanting to move was so that he didn't have to drive an hour and a half to the office so that he could have dinner with his daughter every night. And I think that goes overlooked a lot because it's almost looked at as like a sales tactic, getting their motive. But what you're really doing is becoming more human, right? And that's something I learned from my wife. At the beginning, I didn't ask enough questions. I went through a deal once, and she was like, "Oh, you closed a $650,000 home. What does the client do for a living?" And I was dumbstruck because I didn't even know. And that's when I realized I wasn't being human enough. And I think that's the real thing is like us as agents and brokers, like we need to get more human with it. And buyers, you guys have to understand that right now you have to be a little bit more transparent and honest with whoever you're working with. And that's my firm belief, because I've discovered recently a lot of buyers, they kind of hold back, right? And I'm not sure what's going on in the industry as a whole, but I've noticed a lot of buyers, they're almost like, it's not that they're hesitant to pull the trigger, it's almost that they're hesitant to like give out, too much personal stuff. We want to get personal with you because this is going to be one of the biggest life changers for your life. So we want to get personal with you. We want to make this the right, we want to do this the right way. And
well,
so
it's back to the very baseline basics, right? It's a service industry and a relationship business, right? And you can't get to the end result without having them two consistency. That's one of the two of the basics in real estate that has never ever changed in any sort of economy shift, boom, recession, depression, whatever you wish to call it. If you do not supply the customer with a relationship and serve them, you're not going to get to the end result very easily. And there's enough obstacles after you sign the contract, as we all know, that you don't need all the other different obstacles in your way. So building that relationship and then service in the industry, it's vital. And it's two of the constants that will never go away in this industry.
And I'll tell you, it's really funny because now that you mentioned that, I'm gonna segue into our Who to Watch segment, because that's talking about like really connecting with people. And I don't know if you've seen them, but there's these two agents. One's out of Tampa. I think his name is like Tampa Turf. He's a little edgy with his listing videos. But there's another lady that took it really like to a different level. And I don't know if you've seen her. I got to find her name, but what she does is she'll do a video of like her newest listing, and she'll basically say like, "Oh, where am I hiding?" And it's the funniest thing ever, because like you'll never know if she's like in a cabinet, the closet, behind the sofa, or whatever the case may be. And I think it's super clever. And she's been going viral left and right. I love it when these agents are coming up with these new ideas, because there's no limit to how we can market these listings. And honestly, that's a prime example. She just started this 6 months ago, and I think she's already at like 100,000 followers in 6 months, not even trying. So
that's great. I mean, I think the ingenuity in the business and how you create and market. I mean, I believe firmly that this is a marketing business. So it's how you market. It's your position in the marketplace. It's how you communicate with your audience. So getting creative in them areas and areas and aspects of your business, I think, is a game changer in itself, and it's going to set you apart from the competition, in the marketplace. But again, how you earn the business, how you succeed in the business is the very much the basics. The relationship business, service industry.
Yeah, and I'll tell you that's huge too. And I forgot, who also forgot about? I forget his name, but he's with EXP, the rapping realtor out of California.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's another one that really always draws my attention. He's been popping up in my timeline a lot lately. But it's funny, we're talking about growth, right? So obviously we're gonna just go ahead and roll right in. We're rolling through this. It's such a smooth first episode. I'm like, this is amazing. After I said I was nervous, so it's even better. But we're gonna roll right into that growth, right? Let's talk about what you mentioned to me earlier about controlling the controllables, right? I mean, this is something that's huge that you've seen a lot recently. So let's talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so in the last week and a half, I have had more control the controllable conversations in my coaching segments than I have recently. And I just think that the world is so distracted with outside influences, and they're not, individuals are becoming reactional to outside influences, and they're not compartmentalizing them. And so it creates an instant distraction, and it goes back to some of the things that we've already laid up here in this podcast. But if you're not controlling the things that you can control to the end result, to the finish line, past the finish line, are they truly? Should they be even in your atmosphere, let alone in your schedule, right? And so one of the things I always say is can you take this, whatever that is, from that initial conversation past the goal line, right? And it's all about moving the ball down, using sports analogies, moving the ball down the field, getting scoring the point, whatever it may be. But if you can't take that, whatever that is at that very moment, from A to Z, from where you pick that ball up to the goal line and scoring with it, I think it's something that we really have to say, okay, I really appreciate, and I'm going to use you as an example, Dan, because we're on this podcast. Dan, I really understand and I really appreciate where you're coming from. Give me a day or so. Let me compartmentalize this. I have a lot going on. I put it in my notes, that we talked about this, and let me get back to you, and let's create a path forward on this particular objective, right? And instead of saying, and then consuming ourselves with it, washing off the whiteboard of all of our things that we did have on our agenda or on our calendar that day, and consuming our minds or space with it. So I think that we're finding ourselves easily distracted, and with that distraction, we get off kilter and off center, and then we kind of become even more reactional to the next thing that happens. And then it just continues to compound and build up. And then we really never get anything done.
And then to that point, it's funny, allowing it to consume us, coaching as many agents as I did, and it wasn't a lot. I mean, you got me, beat by a mile. But, I've had the wonderful opportunity and pleasure to coach and mentor a lot of people. And it's funny because I keep getting the one thing over and over and over that I hear from them all the time. Whenever they call me stressed out about a transaction or a client or something like that, they do get emotional, which, I mean, that's part of our job. We're supposed to consume that so the client doesn't have to stress so much. But I always ask them the same thing, which is right on this topic, which is it something you can control or not? Because 9 times out of 10, these agents, when they're calling me about things that are completely out of their control or not even their decision, right? They're calling me about something from the inspection report that they haven't even, that the client hasn't even brought up to them. And it's funny because, as you know, sometimes in these inspection reports, some things matter to certain clients, other things matter to other clients, and to some clients, none of it matters because either they'll fix it or they'll pay for it or whatever. It doesn't really matter. So I see these agents getting themselves worked up on a regular basis over things they can't control and just let it ride. It's something my mom said a long time ago, and I live by this, and it's helped me with a lot of de-stress, right, situations where it's if you have to force it too much, it's not meant to be. And I've discovered that when I focus on what I can control, I feel like I'm walking down the right path and everything just happens to be smooth. And it's because all the stress is basically I got blinders on, right? I don't see it because I'm only focused on the things I can control. And it's such a blessing. And honestly, it has changed my life and perspective, not just in work, but personally as well. And I think that's huge. That's why I was so thankful that you brought this up, man. It's funny how like our lives are intertwined, and like whenever we talk, it's like, oh, that's exactly what I was thinking or going through. It's amazing.
Yeah.
I
don't want to piggyback on that. Just for a moment is as a professional, it is our duty to our client not to be the emotional stable. We're hired to be the pillar and say, okay, I understand. Let me review it. Let me get back to you. Let me, understand the whole context of it. And then give options, right? Multiple options. We talked about that several times in some of our initial conversations in our Saturday fun connection. But, what I do believe is that if the professional remains the pillar in the conversation and he works or she works with the cooperative representative on the other end, I believe that you can get through 95 to 98% of all issues and get to a successful resolution. But the moment the representative becomes the emotional bearer of the matter is the moment that you lose the customer, because now the customer is relying on your emotions, and emotions create combustion, right? And you're not going to get a resolution. You're going to get problematic issues along the way. Oh, this, oh, that, oh, my goodness, oh, the world's ending. When it could have been solved with a simple conversation of how do we get to an end result. And I just had this conversation with obviously, agents still call me from a broker level type
just like me.
concerns, right? And, because I've mentored so many of them. And I literally just had this conversation and Thursday in the car ride home from the grocery store. And I was literally talking them off the cliff because they had already jumped full on off the cliff. And then to come find out the next day, that wasn't even an issue, it was a non-issue, but they almost made it an issue because they almost brought it up to their customer or their client. And I was like, see, this is what we just talked about. Why are we doing this? Why are we being the emotional beings in the equation? We should be one of them.
They created and developed their own demise based on their projection. Yeah, I see that.
And we all do it. We're all guilty of it. I'm guilty of it, and in different ways. So sometimes you have to be able to control the controllables and compartmentalize the matter and adjust as you need to. But it's not like I always said this when I was in the broker at EXP is, it's like controlling the Titanic. You're not going to be going south after you've been traveling north for a distant rate of speed or a distant time frame. Like it's nautical turns over the course of time, right? And if you're able to do it and process things more like that, you become better at negotiating the outcomes of matters that as they arise. Whether it's an inspection issue, whether it's a financial issue, whether it's a mortgage issue, whether it's insurance issue, there's solutions out there for just about everything in real estate. If you just sit back and process them and compartmentalize them, control the controllables and support the customer and help them through that, because they are at that point an emotional storm, right? They're in the midst of it. They're in the heat of it. And they've maybe not experienced that before. And in their eyes, the world's ending.
It's funny you say that because you reminded me of two different points, right? During one of my seminars, right, with personality profiling, I start with one of those slides that says, what are we as real estate agents really? And it's funny because everybody gives all these different answers, but the answer is very simple. We're three things, right? So first we're a detective, and then we're a problem solver, and then we're a therapist, right? And everybody laughs. And I'm like, you're laughing now, but at some point in time, somebody's going to cry during the transaction, and it's probably going to be you. And I'm talking to the agents, right? Because we're supposed to take on, you're right, we're supposed to be that pillar, and we're supposed to take on the heavyweights, and the clients don't have to, so they can make a more calculated, reasonable decision. But then the second part that you reminded me about, I'll never forget this in my first year of real estate. I always thought it was like, attorneys in court, right? Me versus them, me versus the other agent, right? Me, the buying agent versus the listing agent. And, you corrected me on that, and so did my wife. She was like, you get more bees with honey. And you even coached me through it. You're like, listen, how are you going to get to the end when you're fighting and trying to beat them up the whole time? Instead, win them over. Let's be nice. You get more bees with honey. And the reality is, we're working
that's
side by side to get.
Yeah, that's the whole reason they're the co-plug, right? They're the co-agent, right? I always say treat them like a co-worker, right? Treat the buyer's agent or the seller's agent like a co-worker. You know, stop building walls that don't need to be built, right?
My favorite is, I've been doing this for 35 years, and I'm like,
you're working through them.
Yeah. Yeah, for me, it's one of those things. It's like I hear this all the time. Well, not to me, but like I hear from other agents. They get the whole, I've been doing this for so long, blah blah blah, this and that. And I'll never forget, who was it? Oh gosh, she's a huge broker here in town. Her name slips my tongue, and she taught me one of the smartest quotes for my clients, right? Because my client was heartbroken because they lost out on her property because they didn't put their best foot forward, and this is like during a competing time. And she told me, she goes, Danny, this is what I taught all my clients. What if I were to call you tomorrow morning and say, hey, shoot, sorry about that, we lost out to the other offer. And you're going to think to yourself, dang it, I should have offered this much. What's that number right now? Because we need to put our best foot forward if you really want this house. And that changed my whole perspective. This is a broker that we had never had a conversation before that. And that's what I'm getting at is almost like loving on your coworkers. And it's such a wonderful opportunity.
It creates a winning environment versus a contentious environment, right? And I say this, that's the difference between leveling up and balancing out, right? Amateurs balance out, professionals level up.
I tell you, man, it's funny, man. I love being the small fish everywhere I go, and it's funny because I'm always the quietest one in the room, unless I'm obviously on stage, and then it's a show, right? But these segments are great, and this is what we want to share with you guys. This is we're going to be on iHeartRadio, Spotify, Google, Pandora, Apple Podcasts. We're going to be all those within the next week. We're going to be on YouTube as well. We're getting our approvals running, so this is going to be running for quite some time. As Andy said earlier in the show, we've got some heavy hitter guests coming up lined up, and I almost want to spoil it for just one of them. You know which one I'm talking about. We talked about him 3 days ago, because I adore that man, because he's got a big heart and he's a huge coach, and that man is just transparent. His social media has been on fire too. So you want to check him out. We're going to have this lineup coming up. We'll have graphics dropping showing you guys who's coming up in the next few weeks, but this is going to be live each and every Tuesday, not pre-recorded. So if you guys want to hop in and ask us questions or throw us a situation that we can guide you through, reach out, because the reality is that's what we're here for. Andy's taught me a lot through my life, even when I wasn't under his same banner, and now we are, and it's been wonderful. I mean, he's the man that's called me every year for my birthday, and the truth of the matter is, we are here to change it indefinitely, right? And this is why we're coming from a place of love. This is why we're doing what we're doing. So if you need some help, or you want to restart, or you just need to vent, that's what we're here for, guys. Reach out to us, and it's very simple to find us, The Dan Rojas and Andy Schock, obviously, and we'll be here each and every Tuesday at 1 p.m. And don't forget, we have the Andy and Dan show, right? Saturdays at roughly 1 p.m. Saturdays.
We're gonna do a 10-15 minute segment on Saturday, just the kind of the Andy and Dan show, kind of recap the week, and maybe hit some high level stuff, and just chit chat. But every Tuesday we're gonna be here. This is new and innovative, and our goal is to not only revolutionize the real estate industry, but change people's lives, and that's my calling. I live by my 5 F's. I've said this once, I'll say it again. It's family, finance, faith, friends, and freedom. And the most important thing is freedom. It's not for me, it's for you, and creating generational and legacy within your ecosystem in all areas and all aspects for 5 generations beyond you. So I'm super stoked. And Dan, I want to just, we talked about doing a quote, but I love this quote, and I'd love to just deliver it to the end of this.
Hit it.
All right, it's by Aristotle. You are what you repeatedly do. Therefore, habit or excellence should be a habit, not an activity.
Nails it on the head. That wraps up the whole thing. That's basically everything we were talking about. It's wild. See how the universe speaks and how God lines it all up. It's incredible, man. This is such a
blessing. I appreciate it.
Oh, man.
Take us home, Dan.
Dude, so again, guys, every Tuesday, 1 p.m. We love you guys. This is the Actually Real Estate Podcast Show with your hosts, Andy Schock, Dan Rojas. We love you guys. See you guys next week.
Have a great week, everyone. Bye-bye.